So, what does dynamics of biodiversity mean in Dhalamokkai? So to break down the title of our presentation, we'll talk about what our research goal was. So we're trying to understand what are people eating, and then also understand the source, the seasonality, the seasonal effect on it, and what the perception of health is. In terms of diet diversity, there's this idea that having more food groups present on your plate is a healthier diet. So we'll be looking into that.
This is a village map of Dhalamokkai. In this village, there are Illa community and only one Kurumba family is there. Earlier it used to be an agricultural land, village, but now most of them are going for 100 days work and maternity leaves, and some of them have cattle. They have four sources for food, and one is market. It's 22 kilometers from this village, and they have other sources, PDS, public distribution shop. They have two shops. One is 17 kilometers and other is 4 kilometers. And it is surrounded by forest. They can collect food from the forest also. There's a village shop in this village, and they get food from here also. And there's a beautiful river. We drew this map and the seasonal calendars with the help of participatory exercise with some village people, including the village headman. And the interesting thing we knew was there are 4 seasons in this village, in this community. One is summer, monsoon, mist, and winter. First, we are looking at kitchen garden and food they grow. Here we can 7% of food they get from kitchen garden, and you can see some of the food like greens and fruits like jackfruit in monsoon, and they get more food during monsoon like mushrooms, greens and tubers, and some like pepper and orange during winter.
So when we ask how far is this food you grow, we get a range of around the house to about 1 hour. The majority of people saying it's around the house. And then the question is, do you think growing your food is healthy? We're seeing that the majority of people think that growing your own food is healthy, about 75%. However, there's still responses saying no, they don't grow, and some people refrain from answering. So what you can see is that when people say no, some of the reasonings were just the amount that they're eating is not enough to say it's a healthy diet, and that could give us a better idea that our perception of health may be different than the community's perception of health. And to further understand this, we didn't actually go that much into what the understanding of health was in the village, but later, community wellness will be talking about it, and you'll be able to think about what we presented and relate it to what they're talking about. Next, we're seeing the expense related to growing your own food. Majority of people saying there's no expense, but there is some of the answers that we're saying there are expenses is that there's expense to buy seeds. There's expense to hire people to take care of the food from animals and to provide fencing. So how does season affect the food you grow? So we're seeing that for a lot of people during the summer, it's hard to grow food because there's not enough water. And it makes it difficult in that sense to be able to grow food. The next most common response is in all seasons, animals are a big influence on the ability to grow food.
Yeah. We have also included egg, chicken, and milk in this food we grow because they grow cow and chicken at their home. The next source is forest. They get 80% of food from forest. As I said, there are seasonal variations. They get some food from seasonal, like summer they get vegetables, and some fruits like vegetable. And monsoon they get mushrooms.
So, how far is this forest? There's a range of 5 minutes to about 4 hours. And we're seeing that the majority of people, it's about an hour away. When we ask, do you think forest food is healthy? we see that about 75% once again thinks that the forest food is healthy. However, there's still some people that feel like it's not healthy. This could be related to the idea that maybe they actually think that consuming forest food is not healthy, or the possibility that once again, the consumption and frequency of it is not enough to say that it's actually healthy. When we ask if there's any expense related to forest collection of food, the majority of people are saying that there is no expense. However, there's still just a few people who don't collect any food. When we ask about seasonal access to the forest, we're seeing that the majority of people are finding that there's animals in the forest that is preventing them to get what they need, and they're getting tired, and etc. So what we can see is that to access the forest, there's also physical energy that's needed to collect such foods.
The next source is public distribution shop. We get 15% of food from PDS. During some seasons like monsoon, they don't get dal and wheat. In this, they don't get black gram, and in some winter, they don't get much.
So, as Thulasi mentioned earlier, there's two sources of PDS. What we can see is that there's a great range in how much it takes for them in terms of time to get to the PDS. It's between half hour and 8 hours. So this could be due to different modes of transportation. Some people could be driving, getting a jeep. Some people could be taking the bus, which would involve some amount of walking and waiting. Or some people are just walking the entire way, carrying all their groceries there and back. So, and this could also be because of the two different locations. As Thulasi mentioned, one's further than the other. In terms of health, there is a lower percentage of people saying that yes, they think it's healthy, but still the greatest proportion of people are saying they think it's healthy. And then the reason for why they're saying it's not healthy is there's fertilizers and chemicals, so that could be related. Another reason is they think there's no substance to some of the food they're getting from the PDS. And then some people had no answer. And there was this very common answer of, don't know. Like, we don't know, we just get it. And this idea that they're kind of not really thinking about it as much. It's just, they have what they have, and that's just all that's accessible. So that feeling that they're not really in the thought process of, is it healthy or not? So hopefully, with our presentation, we're able to get some thinking about that. Next, in terms of money spending, they're spending about 500 rupees a month on PDS food. So I think it's also important to think about in terms of how much they're making and the economy of the village, what proportion is going towards food? Next question is, how does seasons affect access to PDS? So for all seasons, it's tiring to get there and there's animals in the way. That's the most common response. So,
next source is PDS. Currently, it is developed in the conventional market, and you can see all seasons cultivated, all the food like vegetables, fruits, and salt, all the fruits. Only during monsoon, they get less money.
So, just to remind you, the market is supposed to be a market for the people who don't know. And how far is it? There's a range of 1 hour and 15 minutes to about 5 hours. Once again, this could be related to how to get in there or further range. When we ask, do you think market food is healthy? Majority are saying yes, however, there's still a lower percentage than what we're seeing in the kitchen garden and we're seeing with the forest. The next response is no. This is also, once again, the thought of chemicals. And then the response is don't know. And again, it's that thought that they don't have the ability to think about it. It's just accessible to them, and it's what they get. And I think that's really relatable for a lot of people because you're busy in your life. You know, it's hard to just sit down and think about what food you're getting. And then for expense, majority of people are spending 1,000 rupees a week on groceries. So I think that's really important to think about the proportion of money they have as a family and how much is being spent on food. In terms of access, we're seeing that once again in all seasons, the walking, the carrying of the food in the sun and stuff, in the rain, they're getting headaches, they're getting sick. So that's one very common response. And then the next response is that the river rises during the monsoon and it makes it hard for them to cross to get it over to Nilgiri to get farm food. And the one thing we know that Tulsi also mentioned in the village map is that there is a village shop. This is more expensive because they have the travel cost, but we're seeing that people are using it in the village. And the most common things that are being bought from there are usually cigarettes, different forms of tobacco, and oil, snacks are also being bought. So it's interesting to think about the dynamic of that.
As you can see in all these calendars, in those sources, you can see there are lots of diversity of food we are getting, but you can't see in the daily that you can't see all these substances that are represented on the plate.
So we collected a lot of data on the quantity of each food that we were listing off. We're seeing the season that they're getting it and we're seeing. So with this data, we converted it all to grams and then daily intake and took an average that we're seeing. And what we're seeing is that sugars and salts are being consumed greatly in this area, and then it's followed by coffee and tea, oils and fats and spices are the smallest. But then we decided to answer this question of diet diversity. How do we think about it? And we think about it in different food groups. So what we did is we broke it up into different food groups to try and understand, is this a balanced diet? And what does that mean? So what we're seeing is that the greatest quantity in grams daily is cereals. Cereals are being consumed in the greatest. And then snacks, which is not actually a food group, but we thought it would be important to include, is that we're seeing a lot of snacks being eaten. So that means that people are eating in between meals. So snacks can fall into any group. They can fall into nuts, they can fall into cereals, etc., pulses. But I thought it would be important to just show it as a separate grouping. And then it's followed by milk and milk products, meats, vegetables, roots and tubers, pulses, legumes, nuts, and fruits. So when you think of that, do you think it's diverse? Is a question we're asking. And we're looking at even the most important fruit that is being consumed on the plate. We're seeing that even that is not very diverse. 85% of the cereals is rice, and only 7% is ragi, 8% is wheat. So we're seeing that there isn't as much diversity as one would look at for trying to understand what a healthy diet is. So what we are trying to see is there a healthy diet in Dhalamokkai? If not, what can we do to counter and change a healthy diet? And what is preventing them? So we brought up the issues of economy. Is it too expensive? Are they spending too much money on food already that it's hard to allocate more funds to food, to buy different foods? Then we could also relate it to all the research that we've been presented today. We see, could it be related because they can't grow their own food? Is there preventions, animals, etc.? Water, we see the water idea constantly when it comes to summer. They're not able to grow their own food. And community wellness, who comes after us, will give us a really good understanding of more just a understanding of what health means. And I think that would give a lot of valuable information to what we're trying to say. We can kind of provide the numbers and they can kind of provide the reasons for this. So going forward, I think the issue to look at is this a healthy diet? And I don't want to make the assumption that it's not, or it is, because there is no evidence currently to back it up strongly. So that is what we did, and I hope this can be used in future years. And I think one thing that would be really good for future years to do is kind of do a hypothesis testing of what are the preventions. I think that might be the most interesting, and I think one of the most important ones might be economy.
you have any idea how much of milk is being consumed?
How much of what?
Milk.
Milk?
Milk.
Yeah.
You said tea, coffee, but then
Milk is about 125 grams. Big one. Yeah. So that is actually in the food groups. It's not in the condiments. And it's in the food groups as milk milk products.
Sinan, you should say you averaged it out. So not every day. 125 grams. But
Like an average of the entire village per day is about 125 grams. Yeah.
What's the average age group of the village? Like how many households don't have village, and what's the is the village towards the older side, or is it the
So
side?
we do have
life and the indigenous life or the tribal life, how do you see like the weight playing a role? Is there more obese people in the urban area and less people like getting thinner and thinner in the other area? Can you relate or just see? Because people in the urban sector, like they are growing fat and that is a problem. They used to walk and do other exercises. On the other hand, these people are getting thinner and thinner. We don't know what they're doing.
I didn't see even one person is obese because they have to travel and walk so long. They don't have vehicle facilities, so they have to walk each day.
So I have a question. Tulsi, you said only 8% of their food is coming from the forest. So what do you think? You said because of animals, do you also think it's because people don't know the knowledge is missing? Was that part of your
Forest food and their collection, but they're not living. They don't want to cook.
okay? So you think they know?
They know everything, but they don't.
except for mushroom.
But also, they said there's mushroom, we have to search for it, so we don't know.
Did you get any sense for the history of each source? So we know that the PDS and the market are relatively new sources of food. We know the forest has always been there. What about the kitchen garden? Is that was that something recent, or are people always? Did anyone talk to you about that?
To give you an idea, I can't say it's the right answer, but I think the kitchen garden might be a rather new and old idea at the same time. New in the sense that the idea that this is my house and this is what's around it, and then maybe old in the sense that people always, planted seeds of different types of crops or plants they wanted to grow, and used, growing chili or like tamarind or etc. I mean, I'm sure that's been done for a while. Well, but I actually don't know. Do you know?
I think it's not new, it's old culture. And they are growing around the house like vegetables, not vegetables like chili and there are more fruit trees. They're growing from this.
diet directly affects the health of the people? So do they suffer from any chronic diseases like along with obesity, say diabetes or blood pressure, that they did not suffer from before?
So we didn't collect data on that, but the next presentation I think will give a better idea of that.
Building on the last question, do you have any sense of their understanding of the linkage between dietary diversity and health? Are they concerned about their dietary diversity? Did you capture any expressions of being motivated to expand dietary diversity? Are they concerned? What do they think about this? Is this a familiar idea to them?
I'd say when you're in the village, I'd like Thulasi to help me out with this, that what we constantly kept seeing was more like, I don't know if this is healthy or not. That's what I thought was one of the most common responses. And yesterday when we presented to the villagers, I felt like there was a lot more talk about actually changing the diet, more than I had seen when we actually had been in the village. So maybe the presentation might have sparked the idea. Maybe it could have been because there was a diversity of communities there that were influencing each other. But in the village, I'd say there were some people who thought that they should change it, but I felt that the majority were saying, I don't know.
I think that most of them knew about nutrition and control, but they're not taking an effort to change it or anything. They think what we are eating is healthy. They don't.
Thank you.
Madam?
What is their daily diet?
Take more rice and and spice.
I have a question. You keep mentioning that you don't want to label what a healthy diet is, because it might not be the same for you and for them. But then again, you mentioned that when they're traveling long distances, they suffer from fatigue, headaches, which could be a sign of low blood pressure. So do you think the fact that they have very limited intake of protein and fats, soluble fats, that your presentation might have shown them that and said that headaches that we suffer from is a resultant of us consuming less protein, less fats? Do you think that might have come up?
I don't know, but that's a really interesting point. Yeah, we have had that discussion. I think originally what we wanted to do is like go back to the village and be able to once again do a survey about these different things that we had presenting, but we didn't have enough time, unfortunately.